I have a list of things almost all civilizations have no matter what, and that is religion, duality, social system, emotion, and goal. And when filling out this list with Übermanien Civilization, it reveals a lot. Its religion is Nazism, and you can easily read more about that if you want, so I'm not gonna go into detail, since I think most of you know what they believe. Its duality is hysterical feminine and autistic masculine, which is something it shares with both Bauhausian and brutalist civilizations. Übermanien's social structure was 1. The Führer, 2. The SS plus the party elite, 3. The military, and 4. The state monopoly elite. 1. The Führer. The dictator or Führer, that being Hitler, was at the absolute top of Übermanien civilization, which shouldn't surprise anyone. The positives and negatives here are obvious. If Hitler wanted something to be done, it would happen. So if he made a good decision, it would go through, even if everyone else was telling him not to do it. Problem is, when he made a bad decision, it would also go through, even if everyone knew it was a dumb decision. For example, Hitler declaring war on America was not something Germany was obligated to do, and he basically made a decision on his own, and the party was just supposed to support him and carry out his will, since no one was willing to talk back to him at that point. 2. The SS and the party elite. SS and the party elites obviously powerful as well, and were able to talk back against Hitler in some instances, even though his word was final. This was mostly during the beginning, before Hitler's arrogance took over completely and he became completely crazy. Something interesting is that, unlike Stalin, who was so paranoid that he killed basically everyone of competence around him, Hitler did actually surround himself with, for the most part, very competent people. Germany at this point probably had the best command in history, something reflected in how far above their weight they were able to fight, probably losing because of Hitler making some dumb decisions that they couldn't veto, which is their own fault, to be fair. 3. The military. The military obviously had an extreme amount of power in Übermanien civilization, and quite often would make decisions on its own without direct orders from the top. This is because everyone was such a massive ego, glorifying heroism, wanting to prove themselves and outdo everyone else. This is in huge contrast to brutalist civilization, where you hear stories of people following orders even when they know they would die doing so. They followed the order anyways, since if they didn't follow, they would be killed. Well, if they did follow the order, they would at least have a chance of surviving. In one way, this made Übermanien's army really efficient, since they didn't have to wait for orders and could just make decisions on their own. But the negative of this is that they couldn't control their army, making it a very low-trust system. An example of this is not from Übermanien civilization, but from another fascist country, that being fascist Japan, where the army would attack countries without the government telling them to, and also killing politicians they didn't like. Most of the intelligent leadership in Japan knew a war with America was basically impossible to win. The Navy forced them to attack anyways, since not being nationalistic was not acceptable in fascist Japan. Übermanien civilization worked in a similar way. 4. State monopoly elites. Big companies like Krupp, IG Farben, Daimler, and Messerschmitt only survived and grew because the state commanded the economy and funneled resources to them. They were extensions of the regime rather than independent businesses. Their power came from the state, their industries were effectively monopolies, and they were chosen and protected by the ruling class. Its main emotion is disgust. This probably stems from the industrial cities being really dirty and disgusting during this time period. Many of the young men having to live through the dirty hell that was the trenches in World War I probably fueled this feeling even more. Being followed by the degenerate and sexually loose Weimar Republic, which the average German found disgusting, and is probably the thing that put a nail in the coffin and made disgust Übermanien's main driving emotion. Racism stems from disgust, which is probably a big factor in why Übermanien civilization ended up being so racist. Women have a higher disgust sensitivity than men, which is probably why the strongest supporters of the party were young women. Although the biggest supporters behind any new movement is going to be young women. This is something George Orwell has talked about. We also know Hitler was a germ freak. And lastly, Übermanien's goal was revenge. World War II was basically Germany trying World War I again, and during that, they took revenge against the people who humiliated them and that they saw as guilty for their loss in World War I. They also took their hate out on groups they saw as lesser than them. Going back to the Nazis being totalitarians, they basically organized their entire civilization to be the most effective military it possibly could be, all to reach the goal of revenge. You might think that creating a 1,000-year-long empire and expanding the German people was their goal. But if you look at the result and how they acted, it's clearly revenge. German soldiers were encouraged to commit atrocities against the Slavic people of Eastern Europe, and when the Germans started to fail, they genocided even more Jews, choosing to take revenge instead of putting more energy into fighting the war. I hope you have enjoyed this. I apologize if the audio was a bit shit, but I still hope you enjoyed your time. Bye.